And I want to welcome everybody here. Thanks for coming in person and all of you that are online. We think tonight is a very important night to talk to some of the things that we're seeing across the valley. So we have our partners here from the Nevada State Contractors Board, which is a regulatory agency for the state. If you don't know who they are, you should definitely look them up because they are here to help put the bad actors out of business and ensure that constituents and consumers get the proper information that they need. The Contractors Board we were just talking, was kind of born out of the pool business way back when, probably when many folks were teenagers. We had a stint of bad pool contractors and a lot of pools that floated across the valley because they weren't put together correctly. But not only will we have questions about pools and solar, any questions that you have, tonight is the night to ask these questions. But it doesn't stop here because you can then go on their website, which they will share with you, and then you can always pick up the phone and call. I was just telling the Contractors Board that they are one of the best agencies when it comes to consumer answers. You can call them and ask them anything. They're very quick on the turnaround, and they really are there to protect the residents. So today, let's start. We have Deputy Executive Director, Mr. David Behar, right? Yes. And then we have Director of Investigations, Mr. Terry Wyke. So we're going to go ahead and turn it over to them because I'm really here with them to make sure that consumers across Clark County get all of their answers and really know this agency. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is David Behar. I'm the Deputy Executive Officer for the Nevada State Contractors Board. I want to thank everybody that's taken time out of their schedule to join us this evening. We hope to make this as informative as possible for everybody, and we encourage anybody that's got a question, please feel free to ask us. That's part of what we're here for. We could sit here and talk all night, but we'd like it to make it useful for you. So please, by all means, feel free to ask us questions either online or in person. If we're talking about a particular area that you have concerns about, please feel free to get our attention and ask us a question. I wanted to start off with just kind of giving you a quick background of who we are. So we're the state regulatory agency for the entire state of Nevada. We monitor all the licensing for all contractors throughout our state. We also conduct all of the investigations that focus on both licensed and unlicensed contractors. Within that, we deal with a number of different areas. So we'll deal with compliance issues, workmanship, people that have abandoned projects, people that are doing things outside the scope of their licenses. On our criminal side, we'll deal with fraud. We'll deal with people that are unlicensed contractors that are either coming from maybe out of state or doing work that they're not authorized to do under any circumstance. Oftentimes, those are the people that can harm consumers and homeowners the most. So we take all of those issues very seriously. So again, we're a consumer protection agency. We regulate the Nevada NRS 624. That's what gives us our regulatory power. So I'd like to kind of turn it over to Terry Wyke. He's my Director of Investigations, and we're going to go through a quick PowerPoint for everybody. And again, if you have questions, I'd probably ask that maybe you wait till the end if you don't mind, unless you have something very specific you want to get our attention about. And we want to make sure we leave enough time for everybody to get those questions answered.
Thank you, Dave. I'm Terry Wyke. I'm the Director of Investigations for the Nevada State Contractors Board. What I do is I basically oversee all the investigations for the entire state of unlicensed and licensed contractors. That's my job. What we like to see is we like to see most people using licensed contractors. The unlicensed contractors often get into trouble with working beyond the scope of a handyman license and other events like that. And they work beyond the $1,000 limit of a handyman. And we'll get into that a little bit in more detail later on. But the value of hiring a licensed contractor, gosh, there's so many protections involved in that. And one of the first things is you know you're getting someone skilled in the trade. You know you're getting someone who's passed the trade law exams, and they have to demonstrate financial responsibility. We have what is called a monetary limit for each licensee that we license. And if they, for example, they have a $10,000 monetary limit and they take on a job that's a $100,000 job, we don't believe, the State Contractors Board does not believe that they are qualified or is not going to hold them out as qualified to do that $100,000 job. That's because they've only shown a financial responsibility up to $10,000. So we don't want them doing that $100,000 job because we don't want them getting in over their head. You know, it's a protection for the contractor too, as well as the consumer. In order to become licensed in a particular field, whether it's plumbing, mechanical, or landscaping even, normally you have to have at least 4 years of experience in the past 15 years to obtain that license. So we try to make sure that the people that are coming out to your house to give you a bid on landscaping or plumbing or electrical work, they actually have experience in the field doing it, and relatively recent experience. That's important for us. They're held responsible to all the state laws. One of the state laws that's real important for contractors is workers' compensation. You have employees and someone gets injured on the job in a homeowner's house, well, that person can now sue the homeowner if they don't have workers' compensation. And workers' compensation is generally an exclusive remedy, meaning they can't sue the homeowner. They can only go after their employer's workers' compensation to be made whole. So that protects the homeowner. And so we're doing a service to both. We're making sure that that employee will be taken care of if they're injured on the job. And we're making sure the homeowner doesn't suffer the liability of that person being injured on the job. When to hire a licensed contractor? Always. Always. You want to do home improvement projects. You want pool and spa construction. You want HVAC. You want residential solar. There's so many benefits to hiring, and I'm going to go over a couple more benefits that you might not know about, but there's so many benefits to hiring licensed contractors and not going cheap and getting the handyman or the guy who's unlicensed who puts your home at risk if someone gets injured, or simply may walk off with the money that they asked for as a down payment. That's a big problem we're seeing. We're seeing very large down payments given to unlicensed contractors, and they're gone. We never see them again. We don't hear from them again. I know 2 of them that moved to Florida recently, and they owe a lot of money to homeowners. They took large down payments. So we don't want to see that. And, you know, if you're in the community and even in the field, you might not see what we see, but we see it on a very large scale, and we see people running off with a lot of money and just going somewhere else. Then we don't want that. One of the things about hiring a licensed contractor is when a licensed contractor comes to your home, you can simply type in NSCB in your Google, and you can pull up the Nevada State Contractors Board website, and right there, there'll be a button that shows you where to put that contractor's license number. If that contractor, when he's up at your door trying to sell you this home remodel, trying to sell you a kitchen and bath remodel, you can type in his license number right there or his name, and you can pull up his license details. And those license details are going to tell you what this contractor is like. If I can get it to work. And these license details, I know it's pretty small, maybe for some of you to see. It's small for me to see. I do know that for a fact. So I'm going to move over here a little bit. But this particular contractor, I wish I had a pointer, Dave. But this particular contractor has a license number up there in the left-hand corner, which is 87433. they have a license monetary limit of $300,000. That means that they should not be bidding on projects in excess of $300,000. That's all they're qualified to perform. If you go down to their status where that first arrow is on the left-hand side of the page, it says revoked and revoked board action. This is a contractor who took more than $275,000 in down payments and did no work. Never showed up again after receiving the down payment. So that's a big red flag for us. And he harmed many homeowners. Some jobs he did start work on, and he left it in a disarray, meaning the homeowners couldn't get another contractor to come in and complete the work. They wanted to rip everything he did apart because they're going to now have to give that a warranty. And they're not going to build upon what the first guy started when they don't know what the underlying waterproof membrane exists of. These were mostly kitchen and bath remodels and remodels of kitchens. But, you know, they do a lot of these shower pans assemblies where they have to be properly waterproofed. And no contractor is going to come on top of your waterproofing and say, yeah, I'll take that job and warranty that job. They want to rip all that waterproofing out, make sure it was done the right way, and put it back together because they know they're going to be stuck with it after they touch it. And so that's an important thing. Now, and you can see down below on your license details, if you scroll down when you're looking up a contractor, you can scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, and it'll have the disciplinary action within the last 5 years. And it'll talk about what he's done. And here we have abandonment and diversion of money. We don't know where the money went. All we know is it wasn't used on this project. And that's diversion of funds. Those are the two first things that will get a contractor revoked: abandonment, diversion of funds. That's basically just stealing money, okay? And then, of course, they wouldn't cooperate with us, so we hit them for failure to cooperate, because when we asked for information of where you spent the money and what'd you do with the materials, and they had no answer for us, or they wouldn't even call us back. Basically, that's what this happened here. We hit them for failure to cooperate. They got, I don't know, $200,000 in fines, plus they owe $275,000 to homeowners. It's a bad situation. But that's what you can find on our website, and it's a valuable tool, and it's quick to look up. I mean, it takes just a second to look up a licensed contractor. And if they're at your door and they want a deposit, we'll talk about deposits in a minute, but and they want a deposit and they're pressuring you with sales tactics, oh, you'll get a discount if you sign up today. That's probably the biggest red flag in the world. Don't sign up today. If they're a good contractor, they're going to come back to you with the same price on another day. Okay. So,
hey, Terry, to cover that one more step, one thing we recommend to all homeowners is don't feel rushed to jump into a contract for any particular reason. Oftentimes, you might have an urgency to want to get a project done based on the time of the year. The kids might be out of school, whatever the case might be. Contractors are well aware of that, and oftentimes they'll try to high pressure you into signing a deal immediately. We highly recommend that everybody take their time, do your homework, look at least 3 different bids if you have the opportunity to really research what you're doing. It's your hard-earned money that you're spending on these projects, and it's worth the diligence to kind of check those things. And check on our website. That's what it's there for. It's a really easy process. You can check the contractor by their name, their license number. It's a really easy, accessible feature on our website. So we highly recommend that anybody that's looking to hire somebody, always make sure you take the time to do that before you jump into a contract with anybody.
No, that's a good point. And, you know, the bottom line there is don't get lazy on yourself. You know, that contractor's at your door. Often we're saying, well, I don't want to call another contractor for a bid. I don't want to go through this. I just want to, he's offering me a good discount right now today. I should just sign up. I don't want to make the appointments. I don't want to attend the appointments. And you know what? You can do that and have misery at the end, or you can work a little bit at the beginning and feel comfortable with where you're at. So that's just, I appreciate that, Dave, because that's a good point. We'll take questions at the end because some of these slides may answer some of the questions that you have in your mind. So, but we'll be here for as long as you guys want if you have questions. With the State Contractors Board, you have 4 years to file a complaint from the date the work was done, to file a complaint with us. And we'll come out and investigate it. If it's a workmanship issue, we'll come out and investigate it. If you just believe someone is working without a license, give us all your information, show us the pictures that you have, show us their truck, show us where they're working. We'll send out a team to investigate it. Hopefully they'll still be there. We can catch them in the act. We pretty much have to catch them in the act, or we have to catch them with an advertisement which has their phone number on it, identifies who they are and what work they're performing. Then we can look up whether they're licensed. We're happy to do that too. But with respect to a licensed contractor, you'll have 4 years to file a complaint, basically we'll make sure that the contractor is abiding by all the laws that we have in place. Again, I think Dave touched on this. Get a minimum of 3 bids. Ask for referrals. If they're not willing to give you any referrals, you might take that as a red flag. Just like Dave said, if they're trying to rush you into a contract, offering you discounts. Here today, we have this special. If you sign up today, you're going to get this. Probably that tells you you need to wait. And if you have any hesitation in your mind, wait. And, see if they'll give you specific references. What other homes have you done in the community? What other work have you done around here? Reach out, ask them. Good contractors are happy to share their good work. That's one thing you'll learn, is that a good contractor is happy to share his good work. You always want to make sure the contract is as detailed as possible. Now, what we require in all of our contracts, pretty much for every trade, is a schedule of payments. And you want to make sure that you never get ahead of that schedule of payments, meaning the contractor has done this much work, and you pay him at that point. He does this much work, you pay him at that point. Now, you can have a schedule of payments which has 10 steps. When he brings materials over, you have to pay him. So the contractor can be protected also, meaning he's not stretching himself out too thin before he gets a payment. So he can put a lot of payment schedules in place, which protects you because, as the consumer, because you're not paying for work that hasn't been done. But some contractors don't have a huge piggy bank, and so they might put more steps in there so they get paid periodically, and so that they're protected also, because they have employees and other subcontractors that they have to pay, and we understand and appreciate that, but they may need a little more time in writing their contracts and making sure they have a proper schedule of payments there that doesn't stretch them too thin as a contractor. Of course, you would never sign until all your answers have been answered. All your questions have been answered. Let's put it that way. Cart before the horse. Never pay cash. Always pay by check or credit card. One of the good things with the Adame, who we watched back a little bit ago on a couple slides, many homeowners paid by credit card. You know what they did? They called their credit card company and they got all their money back because it was a fraudulent act. And so paying by credit card is a very good idea. Paying by check, you always want a paper trail, no matter how you get that paper trail, whether it's through a credit card or whether it's through a check, you always want that paper trail. Don't pay in cash. Very hard to prove that you paid someone when you say, oh, I gave him $5,000 in cash the day he arrived. Well, I'll tell you a reason why you don't want to pay in cash a little bit later on. And you always want to make sure the check is written out to the company's name. John Smith can be a great representative, can be the owner of that company. He can tell you, oh, we take Zelle, or Zelle or whatever you want to call it, and go ahead and Zelle me the money. And we find out later on, and we had a situation like this, that the whole contract was fake off of a legitimate company, and he put the guy put his own name and his own phone number down there, and would have the homeowner Zelle him the money, and it had nothing to do with the company. And unfortunately, that homeowner was out quite a bit of money, and they weren't the only one. So never write a cash to an individual or a check to an individual. I don't know how to work this thing. There we go. Nevada AB 39 now requires all contracts to be in writing for whatever type of work, any residential home improvement. It has now been codified into 690 or 670, NRS 624-670. It makes you put in the contract date, the projected start date, and the estimated completion time. 90% of the complaints that we get at the board are contractors not completing their work on time. Or they start a solar system. We get a lot of these. They start a solar system, they get it up and running, or they get it up and everything's connected, everything's wired up, and then the permission to operate from NV Energy doesn't take place because they haven't scheduled it until after the install, when they should have scheduled it before they started the install, which would give NV Energy an appointment time right after the installation is completed. They can get out there and they can give the permission to operate, and then that contractor can jump back out there and flip the switch. Meanwhile, these homeowners are paying on a loan for this solar system, and it's not operating. That's where we get huge amount of claims. I'm paying on something, I'm not getting anything for my money. That's a big deal. And we're working with NV Energy currently. I just had a meeting with NV Energy this week, and we're working out a way in which they can schedule their appointment at the time they expect their completion date of the install to be done, so that they can put those right in line, and they can get that system operating as quickly as possible, because most of these solar companies can install a system very quickly in just a few days, maybe 2 weeks if they're really busy. But they can schedule that appointment with NV Energy right the day they sign that contract with that homeowner. They can schedule that appointment for 3 weeks out, knowing that it's going to take them 2 weeks to install that system. That means that homeowner is likely to have a system installed and working within 3 weeks, and then the contractor can come out there, and after they get the PTO, they can come out there and flip the switch, and that homeowner. But we're not seeing it done that way. We're just not seeing it done that way. So we're working with NV Energy to try to streamline that process, and we're open to any and all ideas to help the consumer and help the solar companies too not have so many complaints because it's taking so long. It has to describe the work, the AB 39, which is 670, has to describe the work that's being performed, total contract amount, including taxes, and any change orders have to be agreed in writing. That's very important. If they're not in writing by both parties, they're not going to be enforceable against the homeowner. So if you're a contractor, you want to make sure you get that homeowner's signature on a change order, and that they've approved it before you try to force it upon them, because we're not going to enforce it upon them. AB 39, the big thing about AB 39 is you cannot take more than a 10% deposit or $1,000, whichever is less, okay? So that's an important aspect to the AB 39. Now, if you put up a consumer protection bond, you can avoid the schedule of payments and the 10% down, but you're going to be putting up a bond to ensure your work is going to be good, let's just say, or to protect the consumer should your work fail. And so that consumer protection bond is available to the contractors if they want to get rid of a schedule of payments or the limitation on the down payment. They have options, is what I'm saying. so that contractors can do what they want. But, you know, generally, we're just out here trying to protect the consumers, and the good contractors don't have a problem with that. Tips for hiring licensed contractors. You want, basically, it's the schedule of payments. You want to just make sure you're not getting ahead of the payments and the work, meaning you're paying for work that's been completed. And if the contractor and you are seeing changes in the work, you can actually enter into change orders, which might help modify the payment schedule for the contractor and the homeowner, which may benefit to each other. That can be part of a change order. So it's not like once you sign a contract, you're all stuck to it. If you both agree that you want to change something, it's easy to do. You work together and you try to resolve it. And if you have problems, you can call you can file a complaint with the Nevada State Contractors Board. That works all the time. This is a solar investigations unit. Did I run over some of your stuff, Dave?
No.
No. Okay. Solar investigation unit. This is my unit. We have created a solar investigations unit. As I've already indicated, I'll go through this briefly because we have a unit now as a group of people that are talking about the things that we're seeing wrong in the solar industry, and we're trying to improve it both from the consumer side and the contractor side. And that's why we're working, trying to team up with NV Energy, is so that we can help streamline the process, get things rolling better. We're also working with the building departments, and we're trying to get certain things done with the building departments so that we can streamline that process, help get permits and inspections done more quickly, and same with NV Energy. Get that inspection done, get that system operating. We know a lot of the people are taking out loans for these solar systems, and those loans are beginning before a lot of the systems are up and running. We don't want to see that. The consumers hate that, and so we're trying to, let's just say, tighten up that process so that it protects everybody. Dave, you can have Mr. Carbajal.
Sure. And just to add on real quick regarding our solar investigations unit, the thought process behind that was very simple. The largest number of complaints that we receive, unfortunately, they involve solar right now. I wish that weren't the case for the industry's sake and for consumers, but that happens to be where we're at. That's the climate that we're in Nevada. There's a ton of money to be made on that, and that's why people are coming in from out of state and elsewhere, and they're taking advantage of a lot of our consumers. So we felt the necessity to take immediate action when we saw this problem. We weren't going to let it fester and just sit and hope that it was going to improve itself. We wanted to be very proactive about that, and so that's what triggered us to create this solar investigation unit. As Terry touched on, it's kind of a two-prong approach. It's the investigative side as well as the consumer protection kind of community outreach piece. One of the things we've observed is a lot of these solar companies, they tend to target specific individuals throughout our communities. Oftentimes it's seniors, it's the most vulnerable members of our communities, it's those that may not speak English properly, it's those that they try to rush into a contract and also into these big, huge, deceptive loans. Here, sign this document real quick. Before these people realize what's taking place, they've locked themselves into a $50,000, $100,000 loan for 25 to 30 years, and sadly, some of them wouldn't even be able to outlive that if they wanted to. So those are some of the practices that we were seeing, and so we had to take immediate action to try to prevent some of these things. So, as Terry touched on, we're working with NV Energy. We're trying to come up with real solutions that benefit both the consumers as well as the industry itself. There are good solar contractors out there. I know that message doesn't get said oftentimes, but there are good solar contractors out there. Unfortunately, a lot of them are getting the negative publicity of the ones that are really damaging everybody else. So we're trying to work both sides of that. We realized that the influx of these complaints had to get addressed. We had to take immediate action. We've instituted some internal processes to also stay on top of those things so we don't allow a company to come in and harm 20, 30, 50 plus people at a time before we jump into action on that. We're taking immediate action now when we see these things. We've become very aggressive at those, such as this example right here with Derek Carbajal. He was an individual that worked with a company called Lifetime Power. Unfortunately, he took a significant amount of money from a variety of homeowners, didn't do any work, ran off with the money. We've taken part of our approach to go the criminal angle on these people, because it's one thing to take their license away, it's another thing to actually make them kind of pay the price for what they've done to harm people. That's a real deterrent to stop people from trying to do that in the future, and let them know that we take it seriously, and if you do it, we're going to investigate it, and we're going to come after you if it warrants that. So this particular case was an example of what I'm talking about. We worked with our local prosecutors hand in hand. We do that on a number of our cases. We were able to get a large number of felony charges brought against him. He was arrested for that, and he's going to be held accountable. And that's what we want to bring out there to everybody, that if we find out that you're doing this, we are going to hold you accountable. We are going to track you down. We are going to investigate those things, so you're not going to get away with it.
So can I ask you to elaborate a little bit on that? Because that is the number one call that we get today within our district. So can they go on the website and look at the questions that they should be asking? Because I can tell you at my own home, older house, 30 years, I have a solar person at my house every day. They have a copy of my NV Energy power thing, which I didn't know that was possible. And so is there a place where they can go? Because what we don't want is for the good actors to get penalized, but we want to run the bad actors out of town real quick.
Absolutely. In fact, we just revamped our website. I'm very happy to announce we've done that. It just got a brand new refresh. I would tell everyone, if you're unsure of what to do, please go to our website. It's full of a ton of different resources regarding licensing issues, regarding checking a license, but specifically solar issues, unlicensed contractors, kind of things to look for. With regards to solar in particular, to answer your question, again, I will reiterate, do not feel rushed that you have to get into a contract if somebody comes and approaches you. When you leave Costco, you get approached. Every day you're probably finding a flyer, you're getting text messages. They're bombarding you in every which way possible to try to get you to commit to a solar contract. Something that Terry touched on earlier that they do, they oftentimes try to entice you with discounts, or there's government rebates. They'll convince you that your bill is going to get reduced or sometimes completely eliminated if you sign this contract quickly, if you agree to this loan process, and before you know it, you've wrapped yourself into a situation you won't be able to get out of. So again, the biggest thing I would ask people to take away from it, don't feel rushed. There is no discount that isn't worth researching. If it's available today, it would most likely be available tomorrow, if you're even eligible for that. Oftentimes people are misled by that, and then they get into these huge loans, and then they're asking, well, where's my rebate? Where's my discount on my bill? And then all of a sudden, when it doesn't take place, it's kind of too late. And that's where the frustration comes in. That's why we get inundated with complaints. It's those issues kind of in the onboarding side of signing up for solar that people aren't taking their time with. Something else that we were aware of and our solar investigation unit takes a look at, some of these companies are very creative. They'll hold actual events to try to entice you, almost like a timeshare type of situation, to come in. They'll offer you discounts. We've seen it all. We've seen people from out of state come in and offer such things. They'll get actual overhead maps of an entire community, for example, particularly maybe a retirement community. They'll take a look to see who's got solar, and they'll map it all out. They might even go as far as to try to pull permits on some of these houses, and they've got it ready to go. So they'll go right to your door and say, hey, I see that you don't have solar, and they'll go door to door, and they'll try to wrap up an entire neighborhood all at once. They'll have a picture of your house. Again, they'll know how much money you might have spent on a bill. They really do their research, and they try to market those people in particular, because they know, okay, they're not going to realize what I'm really doing. They're not going to understand that I'm maybe trying to take advantage of them. And a lot of it is just to get you to commit to something right up front, and that's where they're getting their payments. And that's why I can't say enough, please take your time if you're looking into any type of contract, but particularly with solar, during this time of the year when it's hot, that's when they're going to market you the strongest. Everybody gets that power bill and just can't believe how expensive it is. And they know that, and that's the pressure point that they're hitting when they come and talk to you about solar.
And then the last thing I would just say is Clark County is often issuing cease and desist because they love to go on Facebook and Instagram and say Clark County endorses, and we do not, nor do you. And the other one is the governor just signed this great bill, and none of that is true, but that is what people really should be looking out for. And I would say there's reputable people in town, and let us help get you to the right folks.
Absolutely. And on those lines, what I'll kind of lean into is the unlicensed contractors that are out there outside of the solar industry. There's an abundance of unlicensed contractors. We have a criminal investigation unit that goes out on a weekly basis. They're very proactive, and the purpose behind them going out is kind of twofold. It's to protect the good contractors that are actually out there, to let them know that we're actually trying to monitor these situations and thank them for the good work that they all do. And on the flip side, it's to address those that are out there trying to take advantage of members of our community and harm people. And you won't know when we show up, but I'm telling you right now, we're very proactive throughout the North and the South. We take it very seriously. If we identify that, we will immediately take action on that. And again, a lot of them will use these high-pressure sales tactics. If it sounds too good to be true, oftentimes that's probably the case. They'll oftentimes ask you to give them cash. They'll offer you a discount if you pay them in cash. And they'll oftentimes try to tell you, oh, if you pay me now, I'll use that money to get you a discount on your materials. And actually, all they do is take the money and they abandon you. And before you know it, you're left with absolutely nothing, no way to track anything, no way to track them down. And those are the worst cases that we encounter.
Okay, thank you, Dave. I want to touch on a couple things that Dave touched on. One was the permits. We did get a report from a particular county in Nevada that the solar contractors were pulling the permits for an entire community, and they would pay that permit fee. And then they would go out there with their sales team and try to sell solar, and then show the homeowner that they've already pulled the permit, we're ready to go, we can have this up for you right away. And in fact, we inquired about it, and the county said, yeah, we're letting them pull the permits on all these homes because we get to keep 25 to 30% of it, even if they never go forward. We only have to refund 70% of what they paid. So the county is making money on it, and so they don't mind issuing the permit. Well, I got a problem with that because I think that every homeowner...
Well, so do I, so we're going to address that tomorrow.
So I think that every homeowner has a property right in the permits that are pulled on their house. And so I think there might be some more legal avenues that can be pulled against that contractor that is doing that. So if people are showing you a permit without a signed contract, I think you should give us a call. I think you should. You know what? I want to applaud, and I don't mean this a ditch on the city of Las Vegas or Clark County, but I want to applaud the city of North Las Vegas, because the city of North Las Vegas is requiring now, and I heard this recently, I may be wrong, but they're now requiring a signed contract with the homeowner before they'll issue a PIP permit. And I like that approach. That keeps everybody honest. Make sure that that contractor is the one approved by the homeowner to pull that permit, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a good process.
And it's really a hard balance for us because on the same time, the contractors have made a commitment to get the stuff in, so we try to be friendly, but we also run into people not pulling permits. So I say to everybody that they built a casino without any permits. So I say permits in general, that they should make sure that they were pulled correctly, for one, and nobody should be pulling a permit on your home if you don't have a signed contract.
I agree. And you know what, the number one violation that we see with the Nevada State Contractors Board is the failure to pull a permit. The second number one violation is the failure to get that permit finalized. They get the permit, they get in there and they do work, and they never call for that final inspection. And so that permit is technically incomplete. And I think that one of the building departments, I'm not going to throw them under the bus, but one of the building departments said against one contractor, they still have over 300 open permits meaning they did pull the permits, but they never got them finalized. So, you know, and homeowners have that seller's real property disclosure form that they got to fill out that says, was any work performed on your home without a permit? And they're subject to liability if they fill that out incorrectly. So there's a lot of reasons why we want permits being pulled on every single project that requires a
No, and
permit.
absolutely for constituents, they should really know that there's consequences. So we see, at least in our district, we have seen at least 15 in the last 6 months where they're being asked to tear down a structure that was built without permits. So not only are they out of the money on tearing it down and rebuilding it, but the contractor's nowhere to be found because they weren't doing the job right.
Yeah. Well, you know, you can hire a handyman to do, you know, some minor drywall work, to paint a wall, to do some work in your home, but they can't do any of these. Any work that requires plumbing, electrical, HVAC, refrigeration, fire protection, they can't do any of them. They can't do any work that requires a permit either. And that would be a number 5, or I'm sorry, a number 6 on here, is that we should have that on this slide, which anything that requires a permit, they can't do. And, you know, a lot of people don't know it. In the city of Henderson, you can't remove 10 square feet of wall covering, drywall, or stucco without a permit. In the city of, in Clark County, it's 50 square feet. So make sure you're aware of what your jurisdiction, if you're a contractor, make sure you pull that municipal code and you find out what code applies, because Henderson's significantly different than Clark County. There's a lot of provisions where we have to pull those individual codes when we're doing an investigation against a contractor to make sure that we're applying the correct law to the work that they're doing. So we're trying to do our best, and the contractor needs to do their best. We're almost done, and we're happy to take questions. And here we are.
So can you just remind us of how much the handyman can do? Because we see all the time that they're replacing water heaters, they're doing paint jobs, they're remodeling bathrooms, and there's a limit on how much that
They
can
can't do water heaters in the first place because that's plumbing, period. And they're limited to $1,000 labor and materials. Labor and materials. Remember that. That's the big crunch, is everybody thinks, oh, well, you know, they can go down and buy the materials. They can just issue an invoice, you know, go with the homeowner and buy the materials. They can't do that. And so they're limited to $1,000 labor and material. You know, and one of the reasons why, let me just give you a common sense reason behind what we do. In our C classifications for licensing, we have a ton of subclasses, meaning you can have a C2G and just do solar. You can have a C2 in other areas, or you can have a C10, just do landscaping. And then your landscaping, you're allowed to do 400 square feet of pavers, but you can't do 1,000 square feet of pavers. And the reason why we have all these subcategories is because not everybody has the skill set to do everything. So we've created these subcategories for the guy that just has limited skill. He can go out there and earn a day's living. And that's the purpose of the subcategories. And if you look through our book, or the NAC 624, and you see all the subcategories of the A license and the C license, it's so more people can enter the trade. So you don't have to be, so the B's and the A's don't get all the work. Because if we eliminated the subcategories, you'd have to have a B and an A to do everything out here, and that would harm everybody. And it wouldn't let the guy who just has done tile for the last 4 years get a license. He wouldn't qualify for a B. And so we're trying to open it up and provide licensing services to everybody and bring everybody under our umbrella who is doing construction work. Because we believe that if you're under our umbrella doing construction work, you're going to benefit. Now, one of the things that we didn't touch on here is the recovery fund. For homeowners who are damaged by a licensed contractor, key word, licensed, they would be eligible for up to $40,000 from the board, and that's money paid not by taxpayers. That's money contributed to a fund by licensed contractors. The good licensed contractors contribute when they get their license and they renew their license. They pay a fee to the recovery fund, and that money goes to people who are harmed by a licensed contractor. So that's good contractors paying for bad contractors, basically. But it's not $1 of tax money. It's not $1 of consumer money. So our good contractors really want to do a good job. The board consists of contractors and one layperson, and they want to make sure that that fund is there for the homeowners who are harmed. And they love the fact that we have a recovery fund. California had a recovery fund, and it got exhausted. We want to keep our recovery fund. And so Dave and I are coming up with ideas to try to make sure we keep that recovery fund available. But we want good contractors turning in bad contractors. We want to get rid of the bad contractors, and we want to bring the unlicensed guys who are doing good work under our umbrella and bring them into a licensed contractor. So that's our goal.
So we do have some questions. So we have some online, but I know you've been waiting just a minute. So we'll do, for those that came in person, we'll take one, and then we'll do one online. And if you're online, please don't hesitate to ask the questions because we are watching and we can answer them as we go along. But we'll start with you first here in person.
Thank you. So I just got a few things. On that handyman one, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if an appliance repair guy comes in, he can do electrical on the appliance itself. It's not connected to the house structure, because he can do refrigeration if he unplugs the refrigerator and, does it on a sealed system and evacuates or charges up the system with refrigerant. So I just wanted to be,
Yes,
clarify.
appliance repairs wouldn't be under our jurisdiction, no.
Okay, so that would be something else.
And if I just want to be careful. If it's hardwired,
Yeah.
that's electrical, and we're gonna.
But if he unplugs it,
Yeah, if it's an appliance that plugs in, that's not within our jurisdiction at all.
yeah, because it's a separate issue. Okay. The next thing was with solar. So yes, I get a lot of solar in my area because I live in an older house, as does the commissioner. And they come up, and I must have had about 7 or 8 guys come up, and cash and this and that, and I tell them, look, I'm an electrical engineer, I know what I'm doing, and I don't want solar right now, because they get you with this, well, out of pocket, it's nothing for you. I said, I don't care about out of pocket. What's the bottom line 10 years down the road? How much am I paying for it? And it comes out to like $25,000. So you got to watch that, like you said. And the other thing was, I believe a homeowner can do all this work in his own house. Is that correct? Like, I could do electrical, I could, if you pull a permit, I could do refrigeration on my own house only.
You're talking about an owner-builder's exemption.
Yes, thank you.
And there is an owner-builder exemption, but you must do the work yourself. You can't have others really even helping you. So you must do the work yourself, and you're going to still have the seller's real property disclosure form at the end as to whether or not any of the work was done without a permit. So even if you do electrical work on your own house, and that electrical work would have otherwise required a permit, now you're in a dilemma. So I would still say stay away from the plumbing. Even if you're gonna do work on your house as an owner builder, changing a faucet that's a like for like. That doesn't require a permit. So I'm not going to tell you have to have a permit on that unless you change the configuration of the plumbing pipes coming through the wall. Different story. But generally, you can do everything, but all the plumbing, the electrical, the HVAC. Don't go up there and modify your solar system. I would advise against those items that would require a permit, even if you're acting as an owner builder. Because you need to fill out an owner builder's exemption. So you actually, when you're at your house and you go down to Home Depot and you buy something that needs to be hardwired into your house, did you also fill out an owner builder exemption with the building department? Probably not. So be very careful on the things that you did, because in order to do things as an owner builder, you have to apply for an exemption. You have to use our form and give it to the building department to get the permit to do that work. So a lot of people don't realize that. They think I can just do it because I own the home. Yeah, be careful with that.
And before I have Dave answer those questions, I just would say to the general public, for those that are here and the many, many that are listening on the website, if you don't know, it's so much easier just to call and ask, and somebody at the State Contractors Board will guide you in the right direction. So no question is, don't be afraid to ask those questions, because that's really what they do, and we just want to guide you in the right. So guessing doesn't help you, but just pick up the phone and call.
So real quick, I'm going to try to jump on to some of the online questions so we give an opportunity to them to get their questions answered as well. So the first one was, can somebody use only a business license to bid on a contract? Good question, and actually we've encountered this a handful of times, particularly with our unlicensed contractors. The average person may not understand all of the things we've been discussing. A lot of us are kind of in the weeds of that on a daily basis, so we live and breathe it. Your average consumer doesn't understand some of these detailed things that we've been explaining. So somebody comes over to them, hey, are you licensed? Absolutely, I'm licensed. Here, let me show that to you. And they're actually showing you a business license. Some people wouldn't necessarily know that they're required to have a contractor's license, believe it or not. And they said, oh, okay, well, the person showed me a license, so they must be good to go. Next thing you know, you've hired an unlicensed contractor, they've taken your money, they abandoned a project, and now we're into a mess. So that actually does happen from time to time. So again, I will just reiterate, take your time. If they give you something that says there's a license, go right to our website and you can punch that number in, and you'll know literally in a matter of seconds if that's actually a real, true contractor's license number. You can call us, you can email us, but the quickest way to do it is to go online and just check it on our website. It's a brand new website. There's a link to check that. It's a very easy process. But that is a common thing we have encountered with particularly unlicensed contractors. Are you licensed? Absolutely. They're not technically maybe lying, but they don't have a contractor's license. So there's a big difference there.
And I would just add to that, our license are 5 numbers. Sometimes they're preceded by 2 zeros, so it'll be like 00888888. But they're 5 numbers. So if someone gives you a license number, which is 10 digits, that might be a business license number, but it's not a contractor's license number.
Correct. So another question, several of these are very, very similar questions. Can a general contractor have a license from another state instead of a Nevada contractor's license? So yes, a general contractor can have a license in all kinds of states, but if you're going to perform work here in Nevada, you have to have a Nevada license. We don't accept a license from a neighboring state that allows you to come into our state and then perform construction work of any kind. So yes, oftentimes you'll find large companies do work in a variety of different places. They'll tend to have a number of different licenses across the country. But if you're going to work in the state of Nevada, you have to have a Nevada contractor's license.
I would add to that, we do have reciprocity with several states, so that you don't have to, if you are licensed in another state, you can apply here and become licensed more easily. Depending on the state you're coming from, we'll have, you might have to take the Nevada law exam, but you can get into the state more easily because we do have reciprocity.
There's a question that kind of piggybacks that same thought. Can a general contractor who bids on a job only have a business license? Absolutely not. Because they're going to be hiring a bunch of subcontractors. it's kind of a complicated thing that covers a couple different areas. If you're contracting in Nevada, you have to have the Nevada license if you're a general contractor. Now, a general contractor can oftentimes hire subcontractors to do different parts of a particular project. Those people also have to be licensed. They can't be unlicensed. That is something we see from time to time, particularly with certain industries that we encounter. The main contractor will have a Nevada license, but then they're out there subbing out some of their work to a bunch of unlicensed people, oftentimes because it might be cheaper and they don't think anybody's going to really catch on to that. It's a complicated mess. If that general contractor doesn't pay one of their subcontractors and you're the homeowner, next thing you know, they could potentially file a lien against you and you find yourself in a different situation. So again, just to go back to the basics, always make sure it's a Nevada contractor's license. If somebody's bringing other subcontractors on there, you're allowed to ask for that information. It's your home, it's your project. If they don't pay that person and that person somehow files a lien against you, that's a situation you could avoid very easily up front if you just, again, take your time and kind of do some research on those.
Now, let me add on that. I would add that the subcontractors, the employees of the subcontractors cannot be 1099 employees. They have to be W-2 employees. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is that under Nevada licensing laws, we're making sure that those employees are covered under that contractor's license, because he can't hire 1099 people to do the work.
And that just goes back to the workman's comp, so that the homeowner is not liable. That goes back to making sure that they get paid, so that they're just not a day laborer who's not skilled. So there's a lot of reasons, a lot of common sense reasons to really help the end user get a good product and to support the good licensed contractors within our community.
And the final question, again, it's a license question. What happens if a contractor's license becomes expired during a construction process? So again, the accountability part of having a license in the state of Nevada falls to that contractor. So they're required to maintain all of the things we've been discussing, their workers' compensation, qualified individuals on their license, not working outside the scope of that license, not bidding a project outside the monetary limit of that license. All of those factors, the accountability to that falls with that individual that is the licensee. So it's their requirement to make sure if things are going to expire, that those things are done timely before it becomes an issue, because if it's found out after the fact, you could get in trouble in a variety of different ways. You can get in trouble for not having the workers' comp. You can get in trouble for all of those other things that I just kind of talked about.
Just for the homeowners, though, so when they're giving you that timeline, that's required of, and if their license falls within that, it might be to your due diligence to say, you know, let me know when you renew, because most good contractors are not waiting to the day of to renew their license. Maybe most, right? It happens, but it's your job to make sure that before you give that next payment or whatever, that their license is still good.
What happens when a contractor does not renew their license on time is we give them 6 months, and we do not change their license status from active for 6 months, and then we change it as canceled, not renewed after that 6 months. So if they're canceled, not renewed, they've had plenty of time to correct their oversight on that, on renewing their license. So it's not like, you know, here's the deadline, you don't renew by then, you're done. No, we give them some leeway. We want to keep them under our umbrella. We want to keep the good contractors, and even good contractors make a mistake and miss their renewal date for some family reason or personal reason or other reason. It happens all the time. So thank you.
Does anybody have any additional questions? Sure.
Okay, so licensed contractor's on your roof working, and he's not following OSHA rules. Should you just turn your head and let him worry about it with his workman's comp, or tell him to leave your property?
I'm not an OSHA person, but it sounds like not a lot of people will know all of the OSHA rules, but you want people to be safe? Is that the,
I mean, they have to comply with the building laws, and the OSHA would be one of the building laws of the state. But you should call OSHA if you think that a contractor is violating the building laws or the safety laws. And if OSHA comes out and finds that contractor, then that complaint or that fine and citation or whatever can be forwarded to the Nevada State Contractors Board, and we'll impose additional discipline for that. But we don't regulate OSHA laws, so you would have to generally go to OSHA on that issue. We would send it over to OSHA. We don't have any jurisdiction over OSHA, nor do they have jurisdiction over us, complete separate entities. But if if a building department issues a cease and desist and issues a citation to a contractor, that's very likely going to result in additional discipline by us because they violated the building laws of the state, which is of that county. So.
We just got one more additional question. It's not solar related. It's actually involving pools, which historically we had a huge issue with as well. And the question is, are there scams related to pool construction that the Contractors Board is currently seeing that are more frequent? So we see a variety of different issues that come before us. I wouldn't say we see the pool construction scams as much as we might see them, for example, with the solar industry. But we do see those from time to time. They're not as in your face maybe as other things that we encounter. The most frequent time of the year is when the weather turns. It's spring. People want to start getting outside. They want to start using a pool, building a pool. The kids are out of school. I got to figure something out. And that's a good time for pool contractors, for example, to go into target homeowners and to try to convince them maybe, hey, do you want to go ahead and invest in a pool? So we do a lot of proactive stuff to try to prevent that as well. I would apply the same rules and the same information that we just kind of shared with you with regards to solar and any other person, an unlicensed contractor. Don't rush into anything. Take your time. Look at this pool contractor and make sure they don't have any disciplinary action when you pull up their license. They haven't been fined by us for anything. Make sure, particularly with pools, there's a lot of specific rules that pool contractors have to follow. So they use a lot of subcontractors to do different parts of a particular project. So make sure you ask as many questions as you want. Ask for everything in writing. Be very diligent about that. We do see scams from time to time. Again, if a pool contractor's coming and it's warm, hey, if you want to sign up now, I'm going to be real busy, and I know you really said you wanted to get this pool done. I can put you down right now on my calendar, but I'm going to need X amount of money up front or something to that effect. Again, they're not allowed to do those things, and if you're not sure, just take a second, contact us, and do your research on it. That's what I'd recommend to anybody.
so any last thoughts here in person before we draw for our $100 gift cards to Home Depot? But just a couple of reminders. Oh, you had a question. Yeah, but they can't hear you online, so we want you to be in the microphone.
Okay. You already answered all my questions, but do you have a list of a contract? Because I am interested in make a pool in my house. So do you have a list of contractor of pool from here?
I think what you're asking is there like a good list of references perhaps for a pool or a particular project. We don't necessarily have a list per se, but what I would do is if there's certain ones that you're looking for, get the information and then check it against our website. That's what I would recommend to anybody. If get at least 3 bids, particularly if it's with regards to a pool, get at least 3 bids. Do some research on them, check to see if they've had issues, complaints, reviews, all of those things. But look on our website. Reviews can be very misleading. Again, people pay a lot of money to market those things, and anybody can put reviews on there. I wouldn't put too much credibility in those sometimes because people can make those look one way or another. Go right to the source and look at that company individually.
Well, because I receive a lot of texts, calls never stop, just because I was looking for a pool. So maybe they are scam, more than sure. And thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Why we don't endorse one contractor or not, we do have a solar contractor who's in good standing with the contractors board who maybe wants to offer some other questions they should be asking.
Hello, David Turpin, RG Electric. Thanks for having us. Just wanted to kind of pass some messages on to who's listening online and everyone here. There's basically three main questions you should be asking across the table when you're about to go with solar, and with us in particular, or with a different company, is A, are you a W-2 employee? It's almost the very first question that should be asked, because by law, if it's a private contractor, they can't show you pricing, savings, design, anything like that. Number two is, if you go through a deal with a said contractor, they are required to do a welcome recording within the 48 hours of you signing a contract. If you do not have a welcome recording also verifying the promises they're going to made recorded, you need to make sure that happens. And then number three is, you want to make sure you have a contractor's license, which we've been speaking about now, and making sure you're checking that with the contractors board. If any of those items aren't checked off, then as I said earlier, you as a customer can cancel up to 4 years back. So there's a lot of things like that you can just ask at the beginning that can kind of navigate away from fraud and scams. And yes, coming from a solar company here in Las Vegas, we don't have gimmicks or deals like that. If we're going to offer you a deal today, it's going to be offered in 2 weeks from today. So we know it's a big decision anytime you're doing something to your home, so just be confident with who you go with. Oh, one other question for a contractors board is, in the case where people are fined and flee to another state, are you guys still actively pursuing that, or are they kind of out of jurisdiction, or how does that work?
It's a case-by-case basis, depending on if, for example, criminal charges were filed against somebody. It depends on the individual circumstances. We're going to try to pursue you every which way we can, and even if we don't maybe initially catch you, it's not going away. And we'll be patient, but we're gonna still try to track you down.
Okay, we're going to take one last question.
Looking for people in Florida right now, so.
I don't know anybody in Florida. So, one last question, and then we'll go ahead and draw. But if we could, can you go back, Alexis, through the slide and put your their contact information at the top so that the people online, as well as the people here, can read it? I believe that I seen it in the first page.
Yeah.
NSCB, type it into Google, and then website, and that'll take you right there. NSCB is pretty easy. There is one page that said NV Contractors Board.
.com.
You can just type NSCB, and one of the first things that's going to pop up is Nevada State Contractors Board, and at that point, just click on the website. That's one right there.
Yeah, it's not a question. I just want to make a point of what you were talking about with a business license. So there's a lot of spa guys out there that will sell you a spa under their business license, but they don't have a contracting license. So the homeowner's surprised, the spa gets delivered and it's like sitting there. So you got to be diligent, and then you got to, like myself, I ordered a spa, I drew up the plans, I went down to the building department, got a permit, he came, inspected it, I hooked up a remote disconnect from my main panel and dug the hole and did it as a builder owner. But the homeowners out there should be aware of what you were saying about a business license, that, the guy can sell you the spa, but good luck installing it. He'll just drop it off.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for coming out that's here, everybody that's online, and please don't hesitate to reach out. This is how our regulatory boards work together to ensure consumer protection is protected, and that you're getting your money's worth, and that you're not expending a lot of money up front. So we are now going to draw. Gentlemen, I'm going to let you pick, because I like to spin the wheel. I'm a Vegas kid growing up. So we have 3 $100 gift cards. So you can pick all 3 at once, or you can make it exciting and do one. We'll spin it again.
836-945.
That's one. Okay. The red shirt, right? Didn't you see? I was paying attention.
836-944.
Man. All right, we got to spin this
Let's
wheel.
mix this up a little.
Come on, Dave.
At least need another row, right?
Eight three six 947.
All right. All right, thank you again for coming, and be sure to go to the website, and we'll put some links on the Clark County website to ensure that you have all the information that you need. Thank you for coming.